Studio 105. Anything and everything and shit podcast.
Yeah.
What's happening? What's happening, man?
What's
How
happening?
are you? How are
Good.
y'all? How are y'all doing? How's everybody out there?
Yeah.
What's going
Hope
on?
you're all having a good day. It's another
Yeah.
day in the hood.
Hey, happy Saturday to y'all, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all joining in and all that good
Definitely.
stuff.
Yeah.
Right on, right on.
Appreciate everybody coming back.
Yeah, man. You know, thank you. And if you like the show, remember to like us.
Yeah, hit the little like
The
button
little
down
like
there.
button. I guess, you know, yeah, we got to
We're
keep
begging for likes.
Like us, man.
Please,
We'll give you some candy, man.
Please like us. Yeah. Someday, if you like us enough, we might have enough money for some candy
Yeah, man, we can have an ice cream party.
and some shirts.
Stickers. Yeah, man.
Dude.
Yeah.
We're going to get there.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
It'll
right
be
on.
good.
Hey, man.
Right on.
Right on for hanging out again, man.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Definitely.
So
Thanks
how-
for coming back.
Right.
We got some cool stories for you today.
Heck
We got
yeah.
some local sports stuff to talk about, some weather stuff to talk about. We got
You know.
Christmas coming up.
Christmas.
We've got
Ho,
short
ho,
order
ho.
of days. It's already the 13th. We've got 11
man.
days, man,
Dude,
until
I got
Christmas
vacation
Eve.
coming
That's
up.
the day I go shopping.
Dude, I still remember doing that like when I was younger.
Right.
Like, what an idiot, man. But, hey,
Yeah.
yeah. But,
I
yeah.
try not to do that.
Well, yeah, not
But-
anymore, man. I'm trying to be responsible. I think this is my weekend to do
There's
that,
always
so.
that one gift, though, that you're like, oh, I got to go get that person a gift.
Yeah.
And it's like Amazon and it's going to happen today, man. 'Cause
Right,
It's like, yeah, you'll get it in like 3 weeks.
And you're just hoping that you might find it.
You want it the day after Christmas, right?
Yeah, yeah.
No.
It's Boxing Day.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it'd be Boxing Day. Yeah, you know, it's a holiday. So
Yeah.
it's a holiday in the UK.
We can box.
Get in the box,
Oh, it's a different kind of box.
right? Oh man.
I thought we were going to throw some gloves on.
Nah, I think it's like for I don't know.
I just need a mouthpiece. Don't want to mess up my pretty grill.
Hey, whatever.
I
know.
don't.
Yeah. Well, no, man. You know, shit. Nobody likes a messed up grill.
Right.
That shit ain't funny.
You know how long it took me to get this fixed?
Right? Like, damn it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what do you got on tap for us
So
today, brother?
I got a doppelganger kind of story. Really crazy one. About two girls. It's Whitney C.E.R.N and Laura Van Ryan. It was just kind of a weird and kind of a sad, tragic story of a doppelganger. But we'll show you the video and you know let you kind of check it out, and then you know we'll kind of
Go from there.
Go from there.
Cool.
You know, what do you
right.
kind of got going on?
I was looking into this project Looking Glass and how it's related to C.E.R.N, the Super Hadron Collider that they have over in France. It's like right on the border between France and Spain, I think.
Okay.
We'll double check those facts, but anyway, basically how they're kind of related in the way of destroying reality and how it happened about 13 years ago.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll get
sounds,
into that.
pretty trippy, man.
And I don't know. It's some crazy stuff. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, you got a whistleblower saying stuff, so you don't know what to believe, but then you've got
Right.
other people that are just straight up telling you, some people think this, but it's not. You know,
Yeah.
so we'll let you guys decide.
Right.
All right.
Good.
We'll talk to you guys in just a minute.
Cool.
a bright, beautiful, outgoing 18-year-old named Whitney C.E.R.N began making her way across her campus towards her lecture hall where she had a class that morning. Whitney was a freshman at Taylor University, which is an evangelical Christian liberal arts college located in Upland, Indiana. Whitney had made a ton of friends over the course of her freshman year, and by and large, they were other freshmen like herself. But she did have a few friends that were upperclassmen. And in fact, that morning, as Whitney was making her way across campus, she saw a sign that was asking for students to volunteer to the next day head out to this banquet hall to set up this big banquet for the school's new incoming president. And so when Whitney walked over to the table and asked the people what this was all about, she would learn that the majority of the people that had signed up to be volunteers so far were upperclassmen. And so as soon as she heard that, Whitney was quick to write her name down as well. Little did she know, when she put her head down on the pillow that night, she was within 24 hours of her life changing in the most drastic way imaginable. The following morning, Whitney arrived at the meeting spot in the parking lot nearby. She saw there was a group of what looked like students standing around a university van. And so Whitney walked up to them, and sure enough, this was the group of volunteers. Because Whitney was the last person they were waiting on, very quickly after she arrived, they were kind of ushered into the van, and then the van pulled out of the parking lot and began heading north towards Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne was where the banquet hall was. At some point during this drive north, Whitney struck up a conversation with a 22-year-old senior named Laura Van Ryn, who was sitting right next to her. Whitney and Laura were total strangers, but they looked so similar physically that when they first got onto the van, one of the other volunteers actually asked them if they were related. But it wasn't just physical similarities that Laura and Whitney shared. Once they got to talking, Whitney would learn that Laura had also grown up in a small rural Michigan town. It was called Caledonia, and it was located only a couple of hours south of Gaylord, where Whitney had grown up. After the van finally arrived in Fort Wayne, the volunteers got out, they went inside of the banquet hall building, and for the next several hours, they set up tables and chairs, they put out silverware, they hung up decorations, and the whole time, Laura and Whitney just stayed close together, continuing their friendly banter. And then around 7 p.m., when the banquet hall was ready for the next day's ceremony, the volunteers decided their work was done, they piled back into the van and began heading south back towards their campus. About 30 minutes later, when the van was within a couple of miles of their campus, Whitney would turn and look next to her at Laura just for a second. And right as she did, Laura would actually look up and look at Whitney. And so for a really quick second, they made eye contact. And so Whitney kind of awkwardly smiled at her. And as Laura was smiling back at Whitney, Whitney realized something very strange. There was this bright light on the side of Laura's face. And then seconds later, that bright light had grown and the entire interior of the van was completely whited out. And then a second later, someone towards the front of the van yelled, "Oh my God, no!" And then the van went completely silent. Within minutes, dozens of 911 calls were coming in from motorists on I-69 saying that something terrible had happened. When first responders arrived on scene, they were braced for the worst. But even still, they were shocked at what they saw. Scattered all over the northbound and southbound lanes of I-69, not far from Taylor University, were all these huge chunks of jagged metal. There was glass everywhere, and there were bodies everywhere. That light that Whitney saw growing on Laura's face that suddenly filled the entirety of the van were the headlights of an 80,000-pound, fully loaded tractor-trailer truck driven by Robert Spencer. Robert was a truck driver, and he was traveling north on I-69 when he fell asleep at the wheel, at which point his truck veered off the road into the grassy median between the northbound side and the southbound side of I-69. His truck bounced up onto the southbound lane and crashed into Laura and Whitney's van, and when it did, the impact literally peeled off the side of their van and sent sent the van spinning. And so as the van is spinning, because of this huge opening in the side of it, the students inside were literally being violently thrown out of the van into traffic. When first responders finally actually began surveying the crash site, they would find Robert still in his truck. He was alive, but they would discover that of the 9 occupants inside of that van, 5 were deceased. A few hours later, in the early morning hours of April 27th, Whitney Serek's family back home in Gaylord, Michigan, woke up to the sound of a phone ringing. When one of Whitney's parents answered the phone, it was the Grant County coroner telling them their daughter had been in a terrible accident and she was deceased. At the same time, 3 hours south of Gaylord, Michigan, in Caledonia, Michigan, the Van Ryn family also was woken up in the middle of the night to a phone call, except the call they got was that their daughter Laura had been in that same crash, but she had survived, although she was in critical condition. In the days that followed, the Serek family had Whitney's body transported to Gaylord, and then they began to plan for her funeral. A funeral that would have to be closed casket because of the extensive damage to Whitney's body. Meanwhile, Laura Van Ryn's family rushed to Parkview Hospital in Fort Wayne, and they would find their daughter bandaged head to toe with a neck brace on, laying in a hospital bed in a coma. Doctors would tell Laura's family that even though Laura was now stable, there was no way of knowing if she would ever come out of that coma. On April 29th, so 3 days after the accident, the Sereks would hold a visitation in their hometown of Gaylord. For Whitney's visitation, more than 1,400 people attended, which was nearly half of Gaylord's total population. The following day, on April 30th, Whitney was buried. At the same time, Laura's family, who had been taking turns keeping a 24-hour bedside vigil with Laura in the Grand Rapids facility, were given some incredible news. Based on brain scans, it looked very much like Laura would wake up from her coma, although there was no timeline. So 20 days after the accident, Laura woke up from her coma. And amazingly, at first, it seemed like her brain was functioning the way it should be. The family could not believe their luck. This was a miracle. Over the next few days, Laura would slowly regain her strength to the point where she could move some limbs and she could sit up in her bed. And then as for her cognitive function, it seemed like she was making strides, but then she would do something that would make doctors and her family and everybody around her start to question if her brain really was okay. So 1 week after Laura had woken up from her coma, she was sitting in her hospital bed with her physical therapist right next to her, and her family was in the room as well. And at some point, her physical therapist handed Laura a pencil, and then she put a pad of paper in front of her. And then the therapist told Laura to write a word down that was very specific. It was a word that Laura should know well, and a word that Laura should be able to spell. And so after Laura kind of gave a nod saying she understood the assignment, Laura took the pencil and very awkwardly and painstakingly wrote out a word. But when she was done and the therapist looked at what she had written, it was wrong. It didn't make any sense. And so she asked Laura to do it again. And so Laura, with even more determination, would try to write this word. And once again, she wrote the same word, the same incorrect word. And so it was at this point that the therapist and the onlooking family started to realize that, her injury to her brain might be more extensive than we thought. However, as everyone in that room would soon find out, that was not the case. There was something much, much bigger going on. Back on April 26th, just minutes after the car accident, first responders began moving about the crash site to figure out who was deceased and who was still alive. When they found Laura, she was barely clinging to life on the side of the road, and so they rushed over to her. They put her on a stretcher along with her purse, which contained her driver's license. They put that all together, they put her on an ambulance, and they sent her to the hospital. Once Laura arrived at the hospital, doctors would use her driver's license inside of her purse to identify her, and then they began wrapping her head to toe in bandages and casts. And when bandages began coming off over the following weeks, it was immediately obvious to everyone that this accident had significantly altered Laura's physical appearance, most notably her teeth. They almost looked like they had been shifted to one side in her mouth. However, to Laura's family, they didn't care how she looked. They only cared that she was still alive. But on Monday, May 22nd, when Laura was handed that piece of paper and a pencil, and she was told to write her name, she did not write L-A-U-R-A, Laura. She wrote W-H-I-T-N-E-Y, Whitney. It would turn out a colossal mistake was made, and nobody caught it until that moment. The woman sitting in the hospital bed with the pencil and paper was not 22-year-old Laura Van Ryn. The woman sitting in the hospital bed was 18-year-old Whitney C.E.R.N. When Whitney was found on the side of the road clinging to life, the first responders thought the purse next to her was hers, and so they opened it up, they found a driver's license, they looked at it, and they looked at the victim on the ground, and they looked identical, and so they said, okay, this is Laura. And amazingly, Whitney's purse that contained her driver's license happened to land on the ground next to Laura's body. And so Laura was misidentified as Whitney C.E.R.N. A week after Whitney had written her name down on that pad of paper, it was officially confirmed that this was a case of mistaken identity. And so once again, the C.E.R.N. family received a call in the middle of the night from the Grant County coroner. Except this time, they were telling them that your daughter did not die in that car accident. She's alive. She's in Grand Rapids waiting for you. And so the C.E.R.N. family, they were completely shocked. They wanted this to be true, but it just seemed too good to be true. They had had a funeral for Whitney. They had buried Whitney. Except because it was closed casket, they never saw Whitney. And so the C.E.R.N.s hopped in a plane, they flew to Grand Rapids, and they walked into that hospital room, and there on the hospital bed was their daughter Whitney with her arms outstretched, crying, calling for her parents. Well, this, of course, was a miracle for the C.E.R.N.s. It was at the same time a complete nightmare for the Van Ryns. They had had their suspicions that something was off about their daughter, most notably her teeth, because they just didn't look like their daughter's teeth. But they had been told by the doctors and by anybody who would talk to them that it was perfectly normal for people involved in these very significant accidents to look completely different or even act completely different. And so the Van Ryns just kind of put their suspicions to the side and focused on looking after their child and helping her recover. A few days later, Laura Van Ryn's body, which had been buried in Gaylord, Michigan, under the tombstone that said Whitney C.E.R.N., was exhumed, and her body was flown to Caledonia, where the Van Ryn family was able to give their daughter a proper funeral and burial. Even though Whitney and Laura had only known each other very briefly during that volunteer event in Fort Wayne, their families would forge a bond over this shared trauma. And in 2008, 2 years after the crash, the C.E.R.N.s and the Van Ryns would co-author a book about their experience in going through this horrible event from each of their perspectives. That book is called Mistaken Identity: Two Families, One Survivor, Unwavering Hope.
What up?
Yeah, what's happening?
What's happening? Welcome back. Welcome back. So that was pretty crazy, huh, man? I mean, that was, dude, I mean, those two girls look, I mean, so much alike, and just what a crazy, crazy and sad story.
Yeah, really sad.
I mean, being a parent myself, and as you're a parent yourself, I mean, I just couldn't imagine just being on either one of them sides and just feeling any kind of, well, I mean, I'd be glad that my child was still alive. But other than that, I mean, the feelings would be funky.
Just, you know, it's good that they changed the way they identify bodies in Indiana.
For sure.
Hopefully
I mean,
they're not doing short order identification around here, and you never know if that's happened before or other times. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
it's crazy the chance that the two people sitting next to each other are thrown in different directions, yet their purses are thrown
laying
with
right
those
next.
other person. It's
Yeah,
just-
and that's just crazy in itself. I would just like,
I didn't think it was going to be that type of story, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to have some kind of like this girl realized she was the same age, or not the same age, but looked a lot like this other girl, and she'd already had some troubled past or something and needed to kind of get away from it. And this was her ticket, and it didn't go that way. Shout out to Mr. Ballin for telling the story the way he did.
for real.
Appreciate that, man. That's a pretty cool story.
For sure.
I mean, it's not a cool story in the way that, people had to die.
Right.
And that's really sad. And we're, our condolences to the victims and all this stuff that we're talking about.
Mr. Ballin does have some
But yeah,
really
he's
good
got
stories,
a
man.
unique way of telling a story because
Yeah.
I was on the hook.
I gotta admit, I was too. I totally at first, it was the two blonde girls getting in the van with all these other.
Two blonde girls already starts out like somebody's up to something.
Yeah, and I thought it was gonna be like some weird occult thing. We're never gonna see these two again, and they disappeared with a van load of college kids, and maybe they found like a couple.
That's
here and
going to
there,
be one of our podcasts. It's not Mr. Ball.
And it totally did it, and yeah, just the way that man can tell a story, like you're saying. Thank you very much. Check him out. Not too much, because we might tell a couple others, maybe one of two of his stories, but because he's really good. But man, what a crazy thing to one, be the parent that had to bury your kid and just be like, all I want back is my kid. All I want back is my kid. And then, you getting that call back and saying, hey, guess what? And then being that, and yeah, they were kind of like, I don't know if this is my kid or, because they said that
They could tell something was up.
it's kind of like how you were saying.
How
it's
could
like
you
when-
not?
With her teeth being all kind of weird.
Yeah, dude. I mean, when your teeth are on the other side of your face, something's up.
right? It's like,
And they could tell, man, if your teeth have been shifted because of trauma,
right.
they could tell. There'd be like cracks, fractures, whatever.
Yeah.
If they're just over there on that side of your face because they're over there on that side of your face, then maybe
Right.
you're not the same person.
And and as a parent, you would think even if there was a little bit of deformity, you would think that you'd be able to look into your child's eyes, and maybe that's what was kind of throwing them off as well. Because looking in it's the eyes, man. The eyes are.
Well, and there was a lot of trauma. There was a huge accident, like you said, when
that stuff's
the
going
emergency crews showed up. They were like, they didn't expect to see what they saw.
Yeah, I mean,
and I can imagine.
Bodies just
So,
everywhere. So
I can see why it happened. It's
for sure.
sad that it did, and I'm happy for one family and really sad for another. Not for just the other, but
everybody that lost their lives. And I gotta say, I feel bad for that trucker because he's got to live with the fact that just doing his job, and a terrible accident happened, and he cost people their lives, and he spent time behind bars and all that. Not saying that but he's got to live with that as well, which kind of sucks. But shout out to the families that had to suffer through that as well, and to people that have gone through that kind of circumstances. But hey, what a crazy story! That's why I wanted to share that with just a weird doppelganger, and just like I said. Like, yeah, I thought it was going in a total different direction. I thought it was going to be in a cult, and then bam, you're just like, whoa, and then like, oh my
even crazier.
goodness, even crazier. So, but yeah, cool. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We try to find some stuff that's entertaining for you, and then let's we'll take a quick break, and then we'll get back to some more cool stuff that Justin's pulled out.
Yep. We'll be right back with
Right
some
on, right on.
Project Looking Glass.
Yeah.
up, everybody? Thanks for hanging with us again.
What's happening?
So yeah, we're gonna get into this Project Looking Glass stuff. Basically, it's a story about the government being real interested in being able to tell the future. So they were starting Project Looking Glass. They had Project Stargate. They were also working with this company that built the Super Hadron Collider. It's called C.E.R.N. So if you want to check this video out real quick.
Right here, on the border between France and Switzerland, is the biggest science experiment ever built. It's this huge tunnel, over 100 meters underground and 27 kilometers long, running under nearby homes and businesses and farms. And inside that tunnel, scientists put a long blue tube, big enough to crawl through. And inside that tube, they put 2 pipes that they keep colder and emptier than outer space. And down those pipes, they fire particles smaller than atoms, in opposite directions, pushing them faster and faster and faster until, when they're almost at the speed of light, they smash together, sending subatomic debris flying off into this massive detector. This underground particle smasher took thousands of people from over 100 different countries, $5 billion, and over 30 years to plan and build. My question was, why? Why do this? Why spend so much money and time to smash particles together in an underground tunnel? And now, why do so many people say that what we really need to do is build a bigger one?
Future Circular Collider, new particle accelerator,
building a bigger one
in Geneva, Switzerland, more than 3 times its size and twice as deep.
I'm going all the way to Switzerland, to the particle smasher itself, to understand what's really going on here, and to go on a journey that will forever change how I see myself and the world around me. This is huge if true.
-1, please, yeah.
I'm in an elevator on my way down to the giant particle smasher, more scientifically known as the Large Hadron Collider, or LHC. It's inside the biggest and most famous physics lab in the world, C.E.R.N. I can't believe I'm here. Getting to visit here is a really big deal. Thousands of scientists from all around the world gather here to do cutting-edge research about how the universe works.
We're in a tunnel now.
Beyond that yellow door is one of the places where particles actually collide. Specifically, this one, the Atlas detector.
Oh my God. It's beautiful.
This thing is huge. To give you a sense of scale, just look at it compared to a person.
Look how small they are. Those are people compared to this enormous machine. How did you put this in here?
So we can see from down here that there is a shaft above us. If people have the hobby to build a ship in a bottle, it's exactly the same way of constructing. You have to lower it in and then construct it in place.
I'm so amazed that people built this.
This giant underground detector is where those particles finally collide after being sped up close to the speed of light around that 27-kilometer track.
Where is the collision happening?
So the collision happens over here. So the detector is symmetrical around the collision point, and so we're at one end of it.
The detector is big, but the actual collider part is very small.
What you can see in the center is the Large Hadron Collider, so you can really see how tiny the beam pipe is.
Each pipe is about the size of your 2 hands, like this, or about the diameter of an orange, with thousands of magnets running along it that force the particles within that pipe into a space the width of a human hair.
I just accidentally pulled out one of my hairs in order to demonstrate this. Can you see this hair? Okay, can you see this hair compared to the scale that we're talking about right now?
That's the size of the space the particles are moving through. But even a human hair is enormous compared to the particles themselves. You already know that atoms and the particles inside of them are very small, but they are so much tinier than most people think. Look at a single strand of your hair. Now imagine that single hair is as big across as the entire Earth is wide. Now, zoom in. The size of a single cell inside of that hair would be like the distance from Paris to Rome. Now zoom in again. A protein inside that cell would be like 6 soccer fields across. An atom inside that protein would be like 1 school bus across. The nucleus at the center of that atom would be like the width of a grain of rice. And the protons within that nucleus, they'd be like grains of salt. So a proton compared to the width of your hair is like a grain of salt compared to the entire Earth. And that is what scientists are sending flying around inside of this machine. Protons, which are being squeezed by magnets into a space the width of a hair. It is incredible that we can do this. As humans, we experience only a tiny slice of the full scale of reality. But there's so much more. Wait, but hang on. If they're sending these tiny little protons down a tunnel 27 kilometers long, how do they get them to actually hit each other? Just think about shooting grains of salt at each other from really, really, really far away. Seriously, think about it. How would you do that? If you just thought fire tons of salt, that's exactly what they do. They don't just fire 100 or 1,000 protons at each other. They fire 100 billion in bunches in each direction. And when they do that, 100 billion versus 100 billion, guess how many actually collide?
On average, we get about 50 or 60 collisions per crossing.
You heard that right, 60. 60 will actually collide, which is why they'll do the whole thing over and over and over again, 30 million times per second. There's approximately 3,000 bunches, each with over 100 billion protons, creating 1 billion collisions per second inside of this massive machine. Okay, so we have thousands of scientists spending billions of dollars to smash billions of protons in an underground tunnel. But why? Why do all of this in the first place? Well, if you look on the internet, you'll see that there are a lot of theories. From ending the world to creating black holes to it already ended the world and we're living inside a black hole to paranormal activity to new dimensions to hooded figures performing rituals to summon the devil. That last one was a prank, by the way. No, we are not doing any of that. The truth about what is happening here is both much harder to explain and much, much cooler. So strap in, because it's time to break your brain. When scientists smash these protons together, we get a glimpse at what might have happened close to the start of our universe, the Big Bang. That's because the collisions release an enormous amount of energy for how small protons are. But in the grand scheme of things, each collision is still less than the total energy of a hand clap. But a very smart person figured out that energy and mass are related. So when these protons collide at incredibly fast speeds, releasing a ton of energy, that energy can turn into physical mass, which is crazy. And here's the kicker. If the energy is high enough, it can turn into mysterious or unknown particles, more of the building blocks of our universe, which we really want to know about to use that knowledge to improve the world today, or to just satisfy our own curiosity. But those special mystery particles, they only exist for an instant, before they turn back into more everyday particles that we see all the time, that then fly outward towards sensors that record exactly where they hit. So what scientists actually see is more like a crime scene. They can see where the particles hit the sensors, but then they need to work backward using very complex physics to reverse engineer what happened at the moment of collision and what mystery particles could have been there. And if that sounds hard, yeah, you're right, but important.
We're not just doing this for fun, let's smash things together. We do like it, it's fun. But we do it because we have huge, huge questions.
That thing is enormous, man, just to bust up some little particles.
Right. I mean, it's so freaking small. It's just so weird. I mean, yeah. I don't...
Well, the scope of how large that thing is as opposed to how big a particle is. And then the fact that, you know, in that particular video we just watched, the lady saying, you know, that they're trying to study the universe.
Right.
And then it's not about studying the universe.
And they're wanting to make a bigger one.
Right.
Why? What is that? I mean, it's just weird to me. I mean,
yeah, so that thing, you know, billions of dollars that these scientists spent to put this thing together. And so there's this young man here that we're going to show you a video about that's got a large problem with them.
Born in Nevada, Max was not an ordinary kid. By the time most children were still figuring out multiplication, he was dismantling radios, experimenting with circuits, and studying quantum physics out of pure curiosity. His dream wasn't to become rich or famous, it was to give free energy to the world, to solve the biggest problem that has limited humanity for centuries, dependence on power we have to pay for. When Max appeared in an interview at 13, wearing a simple tie and speaking with the confidence of a scientist twice his age, people were captivated. He explained that he had built a device using coils, coffee cans, and wires, an invention inspired by Nikola Tesla's ideas. According to him, this device could harness energy that already exists in the air. He said it wasn't about creating energy, it was about capturing it. And to millions watching online, it sounded revolutionary. But it was his next claim that turned a curious prodigy into a legend, and a target for ridicule. In that same year, Max introduced an idea that stunned people across the internet. He claimed that the European research organization known as C.E.R.N. had done something catastrophic during one of its high-energy experiments. According to Max, the scientists had accidentally destroyed our universe, and what we now live in, is a replacement reality. It sounded like science fiction. Yet, Max explained it with such conviction that even skeptics paused to listen. He said that when C.E.R.N. collided particles at near light speed, they ripped through the very fabric of space-time. The universe, he believed, snapped, and what followed was not the end, but a reset. We didn't die, he said. We just woke up in a slightly different version of reality. At the time, social media was already obsessed with one strange phenomenon, the Mandela effect, the eerie sense that something in our collective memory has changed. People remembered things differently than how they actually were. Some swore that the Monopoly man once had a monocle. Others insisted that Berenstain Bears had always been spelled with an E, not an A. Some even remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison decades before he actually passed away in 2013. Max's theory tied it all together. According to him, these were not false memories, they were echoes of the old universe, the one C.E.R.N. destroyed. Almost overnight, Max's name became a viral phenomenon. People shared his interviews, made documentaries about him, and praised him as a child genius who had finally explained what scientists could not. He became a symbol for the curious, the dreamers, and the skeptics who felt something was off with the world. The colors looked different, logos had changed, movie lines didn't sound the same. To them, Max was not just a boy genius, he was a messenger confirming what they had already felt deep down, that reality itself had shifted. Yet, as his fame grew, so did the scrutiny. Scientists dismissed his explanation as pseudoscience, pointing out that C.E.R.N.'s experiments were far too small to destroy a universe. The Large Hadron Collider, they explained, smashes protons together to study the smallest particles in existence. The energy released in those collisions is less than what happens when two mosquitoes bump into each other mid-air. If that's true, how could it possibly rip the universe apart? But for believers, the rebuttal didn't matter. Max's words filled a gap that logic couldn't reach, the emotional sense that something about our world had changed. Behind Max's sudden rise stood a man few people paid attention to, his father. Supportive yet intensely private, his father managed Max's appearances, interviews, and online presence. It was clear he believed in his son's brilliance. Together, they created a small workshop at home. Cameras rolled as Max explained his inventions, proudly showing off a coffee can wrapped in copper coils, the device he claimed captured atmospheric energy. He believed it could one day power an entire home. The world loved the image, a young boy in his garage, saving humanity with scrap metal and genius. It was romantic, hopeful, and inspiring. But for scientists, the device simply couldn't do what Max claimed. The energy it produced was nothing more than static electricity, a tiny charge, not a sustainable power source. Still, the myth grew. People weren't tuning in for data, they were tuning in for belief. Even after scientists moved on, Max's theory refused to fade. It merged into the online conspiracy ecosystem, connecting to everything from parallel universes to simulation theory. Videos analyzing his words appeared by the thousands. Comment sections filled with confessions. I remember the Fruit of the Loom logo having a cornucopia. Febreze was spelled with 2 E's, not 1. I swear Darth Vader said, "Luke, I am your father." It wasn't just nostalgia. It was as if millions of people were reaching for proof that their memories were right, that reality, not they, had changed. Psychologists began studying this phenomenon, explaining that human memory is far less reliable than we think. The brain doesn't store events like a camera, it reconstructs them every time we recall them. Each reconstruction introduces small changes, tiny errors that, over time, become false memories. But the human mind resists being wrong. It prefers to believe that the world shifted, not us. And that's why Max's story still resonates. It validates a shared confusion about how fragile our sense of reality truly is. C.E.R.N eventually responded to the growing online claims. Scientists there were both amused and concerned. They clarified that their experiments, though powerful, pose no risk to our universe. The collisions inside the Large Hadron Collider happen naturally in Earth's atmosphere millions of times every second. In short, if C.E.R.N could destroy the universe, we wouldn't be here to argue about it. But that explanation didn't kill the theory. It only made it grow. To believers, C.E.R.N's denial was proof of secrecy. Of course they'd deny it, some said. They can't admit they broke the universe. And just like that, the theory crossed the line from curiosity to faith. Then, as quickly as he appeared, Max vanished from the public eye. His videos stopped. His website went silent. Years passed, and rumors spread. Some said he had been silenced, others that he'd joined a secret research program. In truth, none of those claims were true. The real story is simpler, and far more human. Max grew up. He stepped away from the spotlight, focused on school, and began studying physics properly. Interviews from recent years suggest he's still deeply curious, still passionate about science, but far more cautious about extraordinary claims. He once said that his early words had been misunderstood, that he never wanted to start a conspiracy, only to inspire people to think differently about energy and possibility. But by then, his image had taken on a life of its own. To the internet, Max was no longer a person. He was a symbol, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones we want to believe, not the ones that are true. The story of Max Luffin is less about a boy who solved free energy and more about the world that needed him to. In an era of mistrust, when people feel disconnected from institutions and truth itself seems flexible, a child claiming to expose hidden truths became a hero. He represented purity, a mind untouched by corporate greed or academic politics. And maybe that's why his story continues to echo. It isn't really about C.E.R.N or the Mandela effect. It's about our hunger for meaning in a world that changes faster than we can understand. Whether or not Max was right, he forced millions to ask questions most people never do. What is reality? How do we know it's real? And what if we've been wrong all along? Those questions keep his story alive, long after the cameras stopped rolling. Somewhere, that small coffee can wrapped in copper wire still exists, a relic of one boy's dream to change the world. Whether it produced real power or not no longer matters. What it represented was far greater, the courage to imagine something impossible. Max Luffin may not have destroyed the universe. But in a strange way, he built a new one, an idea that will live online forever, in videos, in forums, and in the minds of everyone who ever looked at the world and thought, something feels different. And perhaps that's the real power of his story, not in science or energy, but in the realization that curiosity, especially when it comes from a child, can still shake the world. Did C.E.R.N really destroy our universe, leaving us drifting in a near-perfect copy of what once was?
It destroyed the reality that we were in.
Yeah.
It didn't destroy it.
Well,
it shifted it slightly from what he said.
Yeah.
So when you blast particles that small at the speed of light, it ripped a hole in the time continuum.
So yeah, which is, I mean, even
so now we're in a different dimension.
Right.
And I've heard of other, theories that we are living in a different dimension from what we're used to because of things that are different, like the Mandela effect that they spoke about. It's weird, man.
You know, and the Mandela effect's always like just one of those topics that people are like, yeah, I remember, you know, and it is, I don't know. It does. I mean, maybe it does seem a little different. If you take a step back, you look at maybe, you know, the 2012, you know, when that whole thing was supposed to happen, or you know, it's weird, but you know,
supposedly, you know,
even the Y2K. Remember that when that was going on too. I mean, maybe even around then, maybe it started changing then too.
Right.
I mean, it never know. I mean, that's when
they started working on that Super Collider thing. I'm pretty sure they built it after the year 2000. Like that's when it started like being operational. I'm not sure. We'll have to look that up. But it hasn't been around for very long. I know that it's taken them like 30 years to build it. And I remember when they were trying to build it here out in Northeast Colorado.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We were really stoked about it. There was posters everywhere on the little shop business wall or windows and stuff that were like, you know, lobby for us to get the superconductor put out here, and it would have brought a lot of money and stuff like that to the area. But
it's probably
better I've also heard, you know, stories about how they've brought back beings from other places because of this, you know. The thing creates matter after slapping these things together hard enough, so you never know what it manifested. You know what I mean? And on top of that, this other video I'll show you real fast where this guy's talking about something coming back or showing up to stop them.
Kind of like a weird Stargate thing, man.
Right. Check this out.
Movie.
There was a problem when we approached 2012, December 21st, 2012.
When you approached me, it was quite surprising that you had the kind of disclosures that you had and some of the background that you had. I do want to say that we're in a public place here, but we are forced to be in this kind of a public place for a number of reasons that I can't explain on camera, but take it from me, there's a purpose for this.
And that's because the information in this interview needs extra caution. Minutes later, something strange happened.
I just want to make sure that we cover this sort of preliminary until we go to the blow of what went on. And we are still having helicopters in the vicinity, in the background. What do you think?
This is not going away.
Once you hear what he's about to say, the timing of those helicopters won't feel random anymore.
We have had to move from our location where we were to a more private situation in order to take this testimony because we have been overflown by repeated number of helicopters that simply did not want to go away.
They were there long before the interview.
Let me be straight with you. While working on this video, some of the things I found really shook my sense of reality a bit. It might do the same for you, but I'd honestly recommend watching until the end, because it gets very, very interesting.
One of the caveats that I do have some personal information that I did get personally involved in was some information that had to do with the Stargates and Looking Glass, and more specifically the 2012 problem with those projects. The, well, I guess, popular opinion of what's out there right now is that the project was shut down because there was a problem when we approached 2012.
This is a 2012 Project Camelot interview with Carrie Cassidy and Bill Wood, a former Navy member who said he had access to information far outside the public eye. At that time, people were already talking about 2012. But Bill claimed the real concern wasn't a prophecy or a calendar date. It was a classified program the public almost never heard about. It was called Project Looking Glass, a secret program built around a controlled setup where they tested how different decisions could change what comes next. It wasn't one machine, but an entire process. They would adjust certain conditions, introduce a possible choice, and then watch how the timeline shifted. The goal wasn't to predict the future like a fortune teller. The goal was to see how the future reacts when the present changes, almost like watching reality update itself based on every decision made.
The timelines converge on that point in time. And when you know enough about the Stargate projects and the Looking Glass project to know how string theory works and how the possibility of possibilities works and how making one choice over here doesn't necessarily mean the other choice couldn't exist at the same time. But once you get your brain wrapped around this subject, you find out that at the end of 2012, in an easy way to put it, the choices that we make become less and less consequential to the future. And eventually we're pushed into this bottleneck of time, no matter which choice we make.
What Bill is describing here is the main flaw behind the technology they were using. The idea was this: they would feed different choices into the system. Things like, what happens if we choose X? Or what happens if we choose Y? And the machine would show the most likely future for each choice. At first, it looked extremely convincing. If one option showed a 79% chance of happening and the other showed 21%, they assumed the 79% outcome was basically guaranteed. In other words, they believed the machine could calculate the future like a probability chart, the same way weather forecasts or simulations work. But what they didn't realize was that these probabilities could change very fast once real people, free will, and real-world actions started influencing the situation. Something that looked almost certain at one moment could shift completely a short time later. Bill's point is simple. They were treating the numbers as fixed, when in reality, the future was still flexible. So the big mistake wasn't the data, it was believing that the data could not change. This created a false sense of certainty, and that's why everything started to fall apart later.
What happened was people, very smart people, began to figure out that something big was coming up. Something that made it so all the possibilities of all the future scenarios of any choice, any possibility that was fed in and observed through the looking glass inherently ended up in the same future. And no decision and no possibility changed past a certain point. That's the big secret.
Okay, so is that certain 2012 in your understanding?
It well coincides with December 21st, 2012.
Bill says that as they kept testing the machine, something strange started happening. No matter what scenario they entered, all timelines were ending in the same future. Normally, when you test different choices, you expect different results, different paths, different outcomes. But at a certain point, around the end of 2012, every path, every possibility, every simulation started showing the same ending. That's what he means when he says all possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history. To the people running the project, this was terrifying. Why? Because it meant they had lost control. It didn't matter what they did, what decisions they made, or what plans they tried to execute. The machine kept showing the same final outcome. So the big secret wasn't that the future could be predicted. The big secret was that the future seemed locked, and nothing they did could change the direction things were heading. This is the moment where the people in charge started to panic. Not because they knew what was coming, but because they couldn't stop it.
The people that know everything about Looking Glass, that have gotten all the reports and all the information, the elites of the world, probably figured out that that was the end of the game. Nothing could be manipulated beyond that point.
The people who had full access to the Looking Glass data eventually realized something unsettling. The machine kept giving them the same answer, over and over again, an outcome they did not want. For years, they believed the future could be shaped, influenced, or redirected. But once the timelines started converging, the technology stopped giving them the results they were hoping for. Every test ended the same way. Every scenario collapsed into the same final point. Bill says that this was the moment when those in control understood they had reached the end of the game, a point beyond which their influence no longer mattered. And here's the part that raises the real question. If they didn't like the answer, did they try finding a way to change the entire phenomenon? If a tool that once worked was suddenly useless, it's only natural to imagine that they would search for another method, another technology, capable of pushing reality in a different direction, or at least delaying the outcome they feared. If they were looking for a way to override or bypass the convergence of timelines, there is one project people often point to because of its timing, scale, and ambition. A project designed to manipulate the smallest building blocks of reality itself. And that brings us to C.E.R.N.
What about the notion that C.E.R.N, for example, is engaged in trying to beat that game, as you call it?
I would say, look at the problems C.E.R.N has had, the crazy little things that have kept that project from moving forward. Certainly, they have never even come close to getting that project to the level they want it to be to do what they really want to do with it.
Okay, well, what about the notion that that's the party line, that they haven't been able to do so? But if you really think about it, that's what they would prefer people believe so that they don't think that there's a threat.
Listen to the interviews of the scientists that are working on the project. Even they say that it seems like somebody or something from the future won't let them get that project done.
This interview happened in 2012. At that time, C.E.R.N was already a massive scientific organization, founded in 1954, and had become the world's largest particle physics laboratory. But what most people don't realize is that the machine everyone talks about, the Large Hadron Collider, only became fully operational in 2008, just a few years before Bill's testimony. In simple terms, this machine does one thing. It accelerates tiny particles to almost the speed of light and smashes them together. When they collide, they break into even smaller pieces, allowing scientists to study the fundamental structure of reality, the particles and forces that existed right after the Big Bang. It's like a giant microscope, but instead of using lenses and light, it uses extreme collisions to reveal the building blocks of the universe. And yes, C.E.R.N did face real, documented problems. In its first years, they dealt with overheating magnets, electrical faults, leaks, and unexpected shutdowns that forced the entire collider to stop multiple times. These weren't hidden events. They were public technical failures that slowed down the project. The official purpose of the LHC has always been straightforward: to understand matter, energy, and the origins of the universe. Nothing mystical, nothing dramatic, just high-energy physics pushing technology to its limit. But the timing is what makes people curious. Bill was talking about timelines converging in 2012. C.E.R.N was pushing the collider to its highest power levels in the exact same period. And for many people online, the overlap between the two stories raises a simple question. Were they just studying reality, or trying to push against something much bigger?
At a certain point, after they're done hearing the computer tell them this is what's going to happen over and over and over and over again, all they become focused on is how do we fix it?
Why? What is this that's going to happen?
The inevitable contraction of the timelines.
The idea described here is that at a certain point, all timelines begin moving toward the same outcome because people's awareness naturally increases. According to Bill, this isn't an ending or a collapse. It's an awakening, a moment where more people start seeing things clearly, questioning what they're told, and understanding information that once felt hidden or confusing. And once this process begins, it can't really be stopped. The old ways of shaping or influencing the future don't work the same, because people become harder to mislead. If this awakening, as Bill describes it, is real, then some of the strange things people notice today become more interesting. The Mandela effect, for example, when large groups of people remember something differently than how it appears now, is often discussed as a possible sign that something isn't aligning perfectly in our timeline.
Yeah, that Stargate movie was a trip, dude. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why it's like, when you see that stuff in Hollywood when you're a kid or you're a younger person, whatever, and then you start hearing about these things, you're like, who's making this stuff up?
Right.
Was it the people that made the movie? Or was it
where did these ideas,
these conspiracy theorists?
Yeah.
Or what is this? But at the same time, these are actual programs that were in the government. They've talked about them. So, and you know, reality does seem a little different, man. Like with that whole Mandela effect thing, you know, I was telling Erik earlier about how I've seen the C3PO dolls in the stores, or my friends had them or something, where they did have a silver leg. But it wasn't like that in the movie.
Right.
And I remember telling myself, like, Did you get this at the flea market or something? 'Cause it doesn't look right. It's got a silver leg, man. Like, did you replace the leg or something? And it's because that's the way they sold them.
Yeah,
and so I think it was like a marketing thing that I think, in my opinion, it's a psyop type deal where it's made up. I don't think a Mandela effect is actually real. I think they know what they look like, what everything looked like, and now they're trying to act like, well, maybe you don't know what you know. And then when we start getting confused, then it's easy to manipulate us. So.
Yeah, start second guessing and that's the thing.
That's just my opinion.
You get somebody to start second guessing themselves, and they become their own worst enemy.
Right.
It's like the whole Fruit of the Looms. I remember that the cornucopia being behind the fruit. I don't care what they say. That's what
It was.
I remember it. I mean, there's stuff that I remember. I'm like, no, that's not how it was.
So there was when I was in like 4th grade. I went to this little private school in Denver, and they had like this little Christmas festival thing. Whatever.
You're a private school kid
for a couple years.
Playing.
Yeah. Anyway, so there was this little piece of wood plaque or whatever. We could wood burn it and then paint it, you know, and it had a cornucopia and some fruit on it.
Yeah.
And so I picked that design and I wood burned it, whatever, and then painted it. And I gave it to my grandma, and she's like, "Thank you. You gave me a Fruit of the Looms sign."
That's awesome.
My grandma was totally the coolest person in the world, but that's just goes to show you how I'm telling you, man.
Well, right. Well, and that's kind of cool.
Like I drew a picture of it because I thought it was funny.
Right.
I gave it to my grandma.
Just even the fact that you could use a wood burning tool in school, you know, I mean, yeah, I know you could have burnt the whole school down with that thing, but we were still allowed to use cool stuff in school.
Yeah.
You know, it's back when they taught you stuff. Well,
yeah, they don't want you to know anything
but
now.
They still taught you stuff. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, that's crazy. But no, that's the whole thing in Sweden. That's the one that really got me, man. I'm just like, why are they doing that?
Oh, Switzerland.
Yeah,
Switzerland and France.
And then they want to build a bigger one. I'm just like, what the flip, Kip?
Well, and that's the thing. If they're saying they're having all these problems with the one they already have, then why are they building another one unless they've already been successful? And there's a lot of people that say that every time they've said they were having a problem is because they succeeded at something and they needed to take care of it before anybody noticed.
All right, that's funny.
Who knows?
Yeah,
just saying. That's why I bring these things up, because it's cool stuff to talk about. You know, there's definitely some weird things going on in the world, and if our reality is broken or shifted or whatever it is, it doesn't change the fact that we're still in it. So we got to try to make the best of everything, and try to be as nice as possible to people, especially ourselves.
Yeah. Self-love,
stuff like that. Yeah. But
gotta
anyway,
love each other.
We're gonna take another quick break, real quick, and then when we come back, we'll get into some sports.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of sports going on. What up? Welcome back.
We're back.
Yeah, man.
Back again.
Thanks for hanging out with us still. We appreciate it. So I guess we'll get in a little bit of sports and all that good stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, oh, yeah. get maybe a good smacking around football game coming up, huh? With the Broncos.
Yeah, play the Packers tomorrow.
That's gonna be awesome kind of game. I think
they're good.
Yeah,
good. I mean, they're fighting for position, just like everybody else is, really. But I mean, they're fighting in their division for position.
Their division.
They're not a weak team by any means. They definitely can play. Jordan Love's doing good.
Yeah.
We need to come out firing right off the bat. We can't really mess around. We did a lot better during the Raiders game the other day. So that was good, but at the same time, it's like it was the Raiders. We can't forget that.
Right.
We got to come back better and get a little harder. That was kind of crazy about the whole Vegas thing with the Raiders kicking the field goal at the end of the game. Did you see that?
No, man, I don't.
Yeah, the point spread was a certain number, and it was good until they kicked that field goal. And the end of it, I saw a little piece of. One of the people that kind of pointed it out where they threw a flag on us on defense for delay of game instantly. As soon as the guy tackled him, as soon as he hit the ground, they threw a flag.
No way.
And so that got the clock to stop. And then they got one chance or one play or something like that, and then got the chance to kick a field goal. Maybe it was that play they kicked a field goal. And the clock would have run out way
crazy,
before that.
Man.
But the refs threw a flag, so a lot of people are saying that they
point
were
spread.
Some point shaving type stuff going on there by the refs.
Well, right. Well,
which doesn't surprise me.
There's a lot of shady calls too. I mean, that's
why I said the stuff about the Chiefs. Sorry.
It happens. But
the
no,
refs are crooked, man. Something's been going on lately.
Something. I mean, and it seems like ever since the whole gambling thing has been out there, it's definitely getting worse and worse. Coincidence? I don't know.
I think not.
I mean, it's just more and more, and it's just like,
When I hear coincidence,
yeah,
nope. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, it's not a coincidence. I mean, there's always been like questionable calls,
right? Yeah,
but when it comes to like,
you
can call it ahead of time what they're gonna call on you. There's a problem,
right?
And I've done that. You can ask my wife. She's like, "How do you know?" I could just see what's going on.
Well,
man.
right. The point spreads or what?
Well,
especially because they always talk about
the throwing the flags at what's to us an inopportune time, but to them a perfect time.
Right.
To throw a flag. Oh. I mean, dude didn't even get a chance to get off the ground, and you're throwing a flag out on him for,
Yeah,
like,
I didn't see it. I think I was watching. Might have been watching my game,
and I didn't notice it. It was the end of the game. We were up 24-14. It's over. Don't care. There's less than 30 seconds left in the game. I'm done. I'm not worried about it. And they threw a flag with like 12 seconds on the clock.
And then they just go for the field goal?
I mean, they just brought their field goal team out and kicked the field goal, and then busted the little 10-point spread.
Well, I was going to say, why wouldn't you just go out and down it? What was the point of kicking the field?
Yeah, it's over.
Dang. I guess
so the only thing it does affect is the people that are betting.
The point spreads and all that.
And there again, I'll bring up the fact that the NFL is an entertainment LLC.
Yeah.
And so the fact that people are betting on something that's predetermined, like a wrestling match,
it's funky,
seems a little suspect to me,
mean,
man. It's like insider trading or something.
I love football just as much as
I love it too, man. Gambling messed it up.
Gambling did well, especially and that's especially when they're at the beginning of the game. They're like, "Well, here's a point spread on this, and this is that, and blah blah," and it's all about the gambling aspect. It's not about
they got 15 commercials during the game. It's all about DraftKings is hosting this, and hey, if you want to do this, we'll give you $50.
Yeah,
you're guaranteed to win.
Yeah, first time gamblers.
You're guaranteed to win company credit.
Yeah, man.
It's like you're guaranteed to win some Best Buy dollars at Best Buy.
At Best Buy. Dude,
you're hungry? Too bad we don't sell food at Best Buy.
You remember like back in the day when we were kids, they had the grocery stores that would give you like little stamps. and the booklet, the booklets and stuff, you save stamps.
Hey.
Man, that's like, dude, that's like old.
Have
school.
one little sheet that you're putting your little stamps on.
Right.
A full sheet. You're like, dude, I got a candy bar.
Is that what you get? Like, I don't think I ever like.
Dude, I was
turned
like
them in.
8, I think, the last time I ever saw anything like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been a long. I don't know why that just popped in my head, dude. But I was like,
that's cool.
It's just one of those
memories.
things. That's the and shit part,
right? There's plenty of it.
Yeah, man. We'll pull it out we'll pull out shit.
Right.
I don't know why that just popped in my head. I just like don't remember. And I was, I guess I never collected enough of them, or my mom never did, or anything to. Or maybe she just used them and never told me what she got with them. Or
I can't even remember, man.
I think it was just like like in-store coupons, stuff like that. You're saying
it's conversation with.
Yeah, it happened. We're talking about the Broncos. Now we're talking about stamps.
I like space shuttles. All right. So, well, that's cool, man. Yeah, we got the Avalanche are doing pretty well. They're playing today. I haven't gotten any notifications, so I believe they're playing this afternoon.
Nice.
I've been a little busy.
Yeah, did you get the Spartans notification? They sent out I got their schedule.
I didn't.
Yeah, so first 4 games are away.
So they're the Spartans.
The Colorado Spartans are our arena ball team. They play at the Denver Coliseum. We just kind of started going to the games last year, I guess it would be this year, but the 2026 season will be starting here in March.
Yeah, it was cool. I like arena football, man. It's fun.
There are
10 people in the place, and it's like,
yeah, man. I mean, you get as loud as you want. I mean, and the thing is, you go down and meet some of the players and stuff.
It's a short field.
Yeah, short field.
Drone flying around.
Yeah, man, a lot of action and stuff like that. It is definitely family oriented. So I don't know.
It's fun.
If you have an arena team in your
around your
spot,
$12 or something.
It was
like
$10, man.
Yeah.
$10, dude. But it was a good time. Sorry,
and it's at the Coliseum too, man. That place is dope,
dude. That's some cool memories right there. I mean, I love the Coliseum.
Seeing the rodeo back in the old days at the Coliseum.
Man, I want to take my girls there, but they're like, I don't.
Bro,
want to go.
I saw the Highwaymen.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash.
Dude.
Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Chris Christopherson and Waylon Jennings.
I was gonna say, Waylon.
My stepdad was a usher. And so I was probably like 5.
Still, man.
They thought I was the cutest little thing, man. And I got Waylon Jennings' autograph on a baseball cap.
Yeah.
I was hooked on Dukes of Hazzard like everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Just a good old boy.
Dude. That was my favorite song. It was like the first 45 record I ever bought, I think.
I think that was like
Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, I think most kids, back then everybody knew that song, man.
That and then We're Gonna Rock Down to Electric Avenue. Dude, I love that song too. Anyway, I'm getting geeky. All right.
You ready? Here we go. Strange facts you may have never known. Strange fact. Scotland's national animal is a unicorn.
The Shetland?
No, it's a unicorn.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually really. Look it up. It is. See, it's a fact that you may never have known.
Yeah.
Good
job.
Right. One more fun. Okay, ready?
Got one more.
Yeah. The moon has moonquakes. All right, everybody. That's strange facts you may have never have known.
Moonquakes
and unicorns, man.
Yeah.
Thanks again, y'all.